Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. Yesterday it was in the news about the destruction of a dam in Ukraine near the city of Nova Kakhovka, a city in which in happier times I remember preaching and holding seminars for pastors. But it reminded me, the destruction of this dam reminded me of an event that happened in China 85 years ago to the day. Because today, 7th of June, in 1938, the Chinese nationalist government destroyed dikes on the Yellow River. Now, the reason why they did that was to try and hinder a Japanese invasion. And certainly they were right to try to protect people from the Japanese forces, because during the war between Japan and China, there was tremendous atrocities were carried out by the Japanese forces, particularly, for example, in the rape of Nanking. Horrible things took place there, things that I would not want to mention or talk about on a video or a radio broadcast. You can look it up yourself if you want to find out more about it. However, the nationalist government wanted to stop the Japanese getting hold of a stretch of railway that would enable them to move their forces a lot closer to some Chinese cities, and also wanted to delay their entry into the Sichuan Basin. And so they broke down these dikes on the Yellow River. And I guess from a military strategic sense, it worked. It did delay the Japanese advance, but the human consequences were absolutely dreadful. It's estimated that up to 90,000 people drowned in the immediate flooding that was caused. And then the flooding continued that over the next few months and years, between 400 and 500,000 people, that's nearly 500,000 people, died from drowning, famine and plagues. And 5 million people were displaced from their homes and had to live among the floods and with the devastation that had taken place. Longer term, there was actually great political consequences, because a lot of people were really angry at what had happened. They were angry at the Japanese, but they were also angry at the Chinese nationalist government. Just as even, today with that, or yesterday with that destruction of the dam in Ukraine. One side blames another. Everyone wants to put the blame on somebody else. We don't often know the real facts of what has happened. But anyway, the Chinese Communist Party moved into that vacuum that was caused by the Japanese blaming the nationalist government blaming the Japanese. The Chinese Communist Party moved in there and basically pointed the finger at everybody else, and they started recruiting. And it became an absolute center for their activities, which ended up with them in 1949 overthrowing the national government and the Communist Party taking over China. Chairman Mao, the Cultural Revolution, we think of the Great Leap Forward, which was actually a great leap backwards whenever millions of people died as a result of government policies. So this act of dynamiting the dikes on the Yellow River turned out to be something that would have a devastating effect, causing hundreds of thousands of deaths and devastating millions and millions of people's lives. All because a military strategy was followed without thinking through about the impact on people's lives. And that still happens in war. Strategists and governments and generals make decisions that have devastating effects for ordinary people. We see the same thing sometimes in business, in politics, that people to pursue their own interests will bring about a dreadful cost on other people, ordinary people who suffer because of the decisions that people make, often for selfish reasons, sometimes thinking they're doing the right thing. We have a responsibility as Christians in particular to care for people. We need to be careful, because sometimes we're dealing with issues, we're dealing with big issues, we're trying to oppose things that we know to be wrong, but we should always do that by watching out for people, for making sure that people aren't going to be hurt, that people aren't going to be caught up in the crossfire. Sometimes we're speaking out against stuff that is wrong in the nation, but sometimes we can do that in a way that really hurts other people. Not to the extent, thank God, of what the Chinese nationalist government did, but nevertheless, we must never view human beings as being just eggs that are broken to make an omelette. And so whatever we're doing today, whatever we're arguing for, whatever position we're advancing, let's make sure that we do so in an attitude of loving people, of caring for people, and doing everything we can to prevent harm, because that is who Jesus has called us to be. You know, governments, political parties, they might not care about these things, but as Christians, we do care, and we must care about these things in Jesus' name. May God bless you today. Join us again tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.